Welcome to Healthy and Holy Lifestyle, a place for men ready to do life differently. If you feel like you've been trying to figure out manhood on your own, you're not alone. Here we wrestle with real questions about faith, family, fitness, finances, and have some fun along the way. No fluff, no fake perfection, raw conversations about striving to live a healthy and holy life. What's up, everybody? You're watching the Healthy and Holy Lifestyle podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Steve Williams. I am Conrad Meier. We're just rocking and rolling with this thing, man.
We are.
I'm not even going to keep track of what episode we're on.
I think this is number 7.
I think we shouldn't even say.
This whole faking it is really working out.
Faking it until we making it, brother. Faking it until we making it. Man, so last week we talked about building from broken. Look, you got to go check us out on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Basically, the places you listen to podcasts. I'm working on getting us on Amazon Music. There's a little bit of an issue. I've got to create another account on Amazon and then link it so it's on the same email as what I created the account for Spotify. So that's going to be fun.
Oh, boy.
And then I'm going to try to put it onto the other places, iHeartRadio, different places like that. And we're going to basically be able to upload it once, and it's going to go to all those networks.
Oh, wow.
Which will absolutely just incredibly change our audience and our reach, because we want to help young men or anybody, really. I mean, this could speak to ladies in helping them have an idea of what's going on in their man.
Yeah.
Or
understanding their man.
Understanding them, because, I mean, we're just as difficult as women. We are. The problem is...
Maybe more so.
The problem is most people don't care to look beyond the cover.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like we have this men's mental health, but it's also, men's mental health month, but it's also another month. And that seems to be more important to a lot of people. And it is what it is. I get it. People feel all these different ways. But if you look up statistics on men who are just down and out and give up and feel like there's no hope, there's a lot of them. I've met some really strong men in my life that are like the manly man on the outside, and they are wrecked. Yeah. And they are throwing their life away in other areas because of what life has done and things that have happened. And so I know, Steve, I kind of said, hey, we may not launch with this, but I think we should. I think we should just launch into this episode idea, and then maybe we'll do the other one, and we'll post that other one. So we don't know if this is episode 7 or episode 8.
It may end up going long and being 9 and 10.
It could be. So I think the world gives mixed messages on manhood, but Jesus gives clarity. Now, when I was first thinking about this manhood thing, and part of it was from building from broken, I had all these Bible verse ideas that are scattered throughout Scripture, but I was like, no, let's look at Jesus. Right? Like, let's focus on Jesus. I know you can see Jesus in the Old Testament, and all that. I don't want to look at some archetype of Jesus. I want to look at Jesus, the prototype of what a man should be. And so the world gives mixed messages on manhood, but Jesus gives clarity. Let's talk about the culture's confusion a little bit. Now, we're going to be very careful, Steve. We got to be empathetic. We got to be wise, because we don't want to get shut down, right? But we can still speak truth. And so we're going to focus on these two extremes, and then we're going to kind of bring it into where it can go from there. So the two extremes are, there's toxic masculinity, which is domineering, harsh, unemotional, and then there's passivity, which is checked out, weak, unwilling to lead. Pop culture often ridicules or glorifies unhealthy versions of manhood. That's stuff we see. I remember growing up, it was, Simpsons, King of the Hill. I mean, you name it. I can't even remember the other one. American Dad. Like they had all these TV shows. They're funny cartoons, but they make the men look like absolute idiots.
They do that in commercials too.
And they do it in commercials too, right? Like, so let's just talk about a little bit, if we could. Let's talk about toxic masculinity, and what are some ways you've seen toxic masculinity?
Wow. You could definitely see it at a baseball game or a kid's tournament or whatever, especially the tournament travel ball teams and high school teams, and really even middle school. Well, nowadays you can go all the way down to T-ball. You'll see parents getting into fights with coaches and getting in fights with the umpire on a game that won't mean anything in the grand scheme of that child's life.
ESPN is not there.
Exactly.
And your kid's not that good anyway.
And it goes all the way down to, driving your vehicle in your car. Your kids are in the back of the car, and they hear how you deal with the simple things like traffic.
Okay.
And my dad, he handled everything just calm, cool, and collective. But somehow or another, I didn't get that trait.
Okay.
I couldn't handle. Could never handle the traffic situation where people pull out in front of you. I was a road rage offender. I would definitely be the one to jump out of the car, bless somebody out, threaten them,
bless somebody out. Y'all know what he meant there. Y'all know what he meant there.
And unfortunately, I laid hands on a few people at a four-way stop one time. So that was not good.
You've been in this.
Oh, yeah.
If you're saying,
I was the toxic
I was
dad.
the toxic.
I wanted to be the I'm gonna call it the BA dad.
Okay.
To my kids. I wanted my kids to think, oh, my dad's a BA.
He's the one.
Yeah, he can beat up everybody. Okay. But then all of a sudden, my daughter one day told her middle school coach that you're probably scared of my dad. And that guy was like, I'm not scared of your dad at all. He said, I respect him, but I'm not scared of your dad. What makes you think I'd be scared of your dad? Well, my dad could beat up anybody.
She about to get you
Nothing could be further from the truth, because what she didn't understand was I picked all my battles.
Ooh, that part.
I picked all my battles.
That part.
I knew who to mess with and who not to mess with.
Y'all listen, there's so much gold in that, right? In toxic masculinity, they seem to pick the ones they know they're going to win.
Exactly. Or think they can win. Until he gets out of the car and he's twice my size.
Oh, yeah.
And, or if he's just wearing an MMA shirt.
Right.
That's enough for me to be like, dude, I'm so sorry. My wife told me to go, and I didn't mean to go, but I had to appease her.
Hey, look, I knew guys that wore tap-out shirts, and the only thing they were tapping out was after they ate too many tacos from the taco pack at Taco Bell.
I wasn't going to take a chance. Because I tapped out as soon as they got out of the car and I saw the shirt.
Got you. So there's that domineering, harsh, unemotional side, right? And what people would call chauvinistic and machismo, but in a super toxic way, right?
Yeah.
But then there's passivity, which is the checked out, weak, unwilling to lead version. And I do want to also preface this that there may be seasons in our life where some of these characteristics from either one kind of come to the surface, right? So there may be times where we're extremely toxic in our masculinity. I think the culture's kind of made a talking point that almost all masculinity is toxic. And I'm like, nah, that's not the case. Not all masculinity is toxic. Like if it wasn't for men who fight, men who can stand firm, and men who defend our freedoms, we wouldn't have many of the freedoms we have today. We needed men with a backbone who weren't afraid to go into a place and put their foot down, right? We need good police officers.
Yeah.
We need men who, when there is a dangerous situation, they're not afraid to run towards the situation. We also need men who are level-headed in the situation.
Yep.
To not escalate a situation for no reason, right? And I always think about, like, when I was younger, and there were times where it was like I would escalate the situation, and I'm like, oh dang, this is about to be a fight. Like at first it's just talking junk, right? Like, oh yeah, you don't want none, and then they're like, they really do, and you're like, oh, this is about to go down.
I thought we was just talking.
yeah, like and I always, like, not just me, but I knew people, they'd just be like, yeah, and they would be all hype while their boys were there.
Yeah.
But then when, like, they were walking through the school and nobody else was with them, they were quiet as a mouse. You know what I mean? And so you have both sides of that. And so you have the toxic version, but then you have the passivity. So I want to focus on that passivity side, the checked out. I know at times this can kind of rear its ugly head in my life. I'll be scrolling on my phone and Zane's laying on the floor and Clava's asked me to take care of him. And I'm like, I'm so tired. I just want to scroll here. And there was a moment today, as a matter of fact, that I was kind of scrolling. Zane was like, drinking from his bottle, and he kind of looked at me, and I was looking at the phone, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he looked away. And I was like, he was focused on me when I wasn't focused on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the moment I turned my focus to him, he turned his focus away.
Yeah.
And I said, I wonder if that's how he felt when he looked at me and I wasn't looking at him.
Mm.
And I know that he's 6 months old.
Yeah.
He's not really probably that deep.
Yeah.
But they can tell. They can tell when you're giving attention, when you're playing with them, and you're excited to see them, and you're smiling when you see them. And so passivity can be checked out like I'm on my phone, checked out like I'm not having a conversation with my wife, right? Checked out I'm not listening to a brother of mine. We're sitting and having coffee, and he's sharing his heart, he's sharing his life, and I'm just like, not even in it, right?
I got a question for you.
Yeah, man.
What do you, because I've never addressed this situation about being a passive father, but it did bring up an example in my mind.
Okay.
I want to see what you think about this. What if when, because our kids do look up to us and they do look to us when they need answers a lot of times. If a child comes to you and they have a problem with another person, another student, classmate, friend, not an enemy, whatever, and we always tell them, turn the other cheek or just ignore them. That a lot of situations, that's not enough, especially when your child is being bullied by an aggressor that doesn't really have a reason other than the fact it makes them feel good to torture your child. What would you say, or what could we say to our kids, or what kind of parent could we be to them that just doesn't say, well, just ignore them.
Right.
Don't do that, just pray for them, because they're still going to get beat up tomorrow.
Right.
And I think about, well, I'll let you answer that, then I'll go with what.
I mean, I feel like that's definitely a loaded question, right? Because every situation is different.
Yeah.
Every circumstance is different. There's not a formula to these type of advice moments, right? There's going to be times where it's like, can you position yourself away from this person? Like you don't want to tell your kid, get in the fight.
Right.
The only time I want Zane to throw hands is when that's the last resort.
Yeah.
I do not want him to be an instigator, but I also don't want him to be afraid if somebody instigates. Now I don't know what that's going to look like fully, but I think about like youth. Whenever I was a youth pastor, we had some kids that were like a little more on the violent side, and some of the students that were kind of that way, we would have discussions about them thinking things through. Okay, if you go and tell, and I know that this is like you're gonna get mocked by people or whatever, right? But if you go to a higher authority figure, you don't necessarily do it like, you know what I mean? Like, help, or whatever. You do whatever you can to get away, and then you tell somebody who's an authority figure. I know you may get mocked, you may get all these things, but you're also not getting suspended. You're not getting, marks against you. I don't know if they still do that. Like, that's going on your permanent record.
Yeah.
I don't know what a permanent record is, bro. The police department didn't even keep a permanent record on me, so I don't think the school did. But I also think there is a position and there is a time where it kind of gets very clear that if you invade my space, because I'll tell you this: if Zane's, I hope he's not 6 years old in this house. Say he's 6 years old, and some kid walks up to him, shoves him, and no one else is around, and he hits the ground and he gets back up and he holds his own, and let's say he loses, but he wails on this kid, and the other, and the teacher says, "Hey, your son said that you told him he needed to defend himself." And I'd say, yeah, I did. Because where were y'all when he got pushed to the ground?
Yeah.
Where were y'all? And as long as he doesn't instigate, I got his back.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference too. As parents, you have to be honest. And you cannot look at your child as some little angel who didn't do anything to instigate this. Because they'll come to you sometimes, right? They'll be like, well, so-and-so's picking on me. They won't tell you that they've been talking junk back, or they've been saying stuff to other friends, and now this person's confronting them.
Yeah.
And so I always say, like, honesty. If you're honest with me, I got your back.
Yeah.
And I think that's where parents, they really should we have to tread lightly for every situation, right?
Yeah.
Pay attention to the attitude and the way your child's kind of moving about.
What do you do these days? They don't really do it as much as they used to, but like when you would have a problem with somebody, and I know this is a bit of a rabbit trail, but they would go to the child's parent, whoever was bullying the kid. You don't see that too often anymore. They usually just go to social media, or they just out and out. A parent goes up to a child wanting to throw hands with a child. I mean, and it is so silly.
I mean, I have heard of parents wanting to fight parents. So I mean, I'll be 100 on this podcast. There is a reason why I'm getting in shape. I am making sure I can handle my own, because we live in a different world.
Yeah.
We live in a world where parents aren't even ones following and submitting to authority. We live in a world where parents will defend the poor actions of their children to jail. They'll do whatever it takes defending their poor baby, whoever it is, right? And we dealt with that. My wife was a nanny, and we had seen that in families that they just would not acknowledge. Your kid's a tyrant, right? And it's like, so the flip side of that is sometimes they have that modeled for them.
Yeah.
And so we have to be careful, I think, to number one, not be instigators, but number two, like, we better be ready. You know what I mean? Like, in the world we live in today,
but doesn't in a sense, and I'm definitely not saying you're wrong, because I was that dad myself, but doesn't that kind of, I don't know, counteract the whole turn the other cheek, be humble, in every case, if someone hits you on one side, you offer them the other. And we know what our human nature is going to do.
Right.
And just, if you're not in tune with the Holy Spirit and letting the Holy Spirit lead us, we would really quick. It's just like hitting your thumb with a hammer. It's going to come out.
Correct.
Because what's in you, what's in your heart, and what's in your flesh, which your heart is a part of your flesh, and it's going to come out when you least expect it. Yeah. If you knew if I know I'm going to hit my thumb, so I'm going to tell myself I'm not going to say this and that and the other. But when it happens unexpectedly, because you're not expecting your kid to come home and say he got beat up by this kid or that kid, or a parent actually challenged him or anything like that.
Right.
But I mean, it's very hard to not be the fleshly parent that wants to take up for your kid.
Yeah.
And it's extremely hard to be the humble dad. I used to teach a children's church. I don't know if you've ever heard of children's church, but anybody that spent any real time at church back in the 90s, children's church was a big thing. While the parents were in one part of the church, in the main facility, you would be kind of in the fellowship hall or whatever it took. I had a parent bust in on my class one time. And asked me to step outside because I told his kid that he had to go back to the main sanctuary and sit with his parents because he was being extremely rude to another little girl that he said she stunk. Okay. And I told him, I said, look, you can either find another seat, but we're not going to, be rude to this little girl. She's in church. We're trying to spread the love of Jesus. And right now, You're being very hateful, and you're allowing your flesh to take over just because you don't like the way this little girl smells. There might be things about you that she don't like, but you're the one that's the aggressor, and you need to go sit with your parents. So I sent him with an escort back to his parent because, you couldn't even – I wasn't about to touch this kid. Mm-hmm. And his dad just busted right in the door. I need to speak to you outside. I'm like, I'm not leaving my class to speak to you.
Right.
And I thought that my helper in that class was going to back me up on that. But he was like, well, I'll watch the class if you need to go out there.
Yeah. You got this, brother.
Yeah, you got this.
You
and
got
I'm like,
this, brother.
I'm like, am I really going to have to,
I got your back from in here.
Yeah. I keep an eye on the kids.
I got it. You got your back from watching the kids.
And I mean,
oh my goodness.
we go outside and he's like, I want to know what you said to my kid. And I told him exactly what happened, exactly what he said, because I was letting him be in real loud and I was going to be the one that talked real slow, real low. And he's like, well, I don't appreciate you doing that. And I'm thinking about, I'm just going to kick your bleep. And I said, I don't think so. That ain't going to happen. I said, not to mention, is that you're standing in church or at church at this point, and you're going to teach your kid
you need to go back to the message
that it's okay to assault another adult because your son got his feelings hurt and you got your feelings hurt because he got his feelings hurt. I said, even after I told you the truth of exactly what happened, this is what you want to do.
Right.
And before he could say the words out of his mouth, this is exactly what I want. One of the the main people in the church had come out because he had saw the guy walk out of the sanctuary really fast in the middle of the preaching. And he just, the Holy Spirit told him, you need to go out there. Okay. And so he come flying out that door. And this guy, and this was the one person in the church you did not want to come out there and get in your face because he actually used to be an enforcer for the mob up in Atlantic City.
Oh, my goodness.
And he was a big guy.
There's always guys like that at church, by the way. Y'all, we save, not soft.
Yeah. He was my Peter. I mean, he's on
pulling the sword.
Yeah. And he immediately stepped between us when he said that. And he said, no, hit me first because it'll be the last time you hit anybody.
Okay.
He's like, you're not going to touch another teacher in this church. And when he said that, it was over with. The fight was over with. Yeah. He grabbed his son. He said, forget it. He was okay with fighting one person, but he certainly wasn't going to fight two. And he certainly wasn't going to fight Mr. Fred.
Well, I don't want to interrupt that full story.
That was the story.
But was it. You did say something that kind of convicted me, right? But I wanted to make sure I was very clear. I want to be super crystal clear in what I was saying earlier. My goal is to never get in a fight.
Right.
My goal is to never have to be somebody who does something in a certain situation. That's my goal.
Yeah.
But if all roads are exhausted, or if I am backed into a corner, sheep get shepherded, wolves get shot.
Yeah.
Right? A wolf is not going to be able to attack my child or my wife.
Yeah.
Or anybody else's child or wife, as long as I'm here.
Yeah.
As long as I'm in the gap. So like when I was downtown or whatever, my head is on a swivel. I see that we have cops, but it's still going to take that cop 2.5 minutes to get there before somebody's stabbed or, whatever, whatever the situation is, it's going to take them some time. Now, I'm not going to say I wasn't carrying or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So there was nothing like that, but my head is on swivel because ultimately I am called by God to protect and provide for Kalava and Zane.
Yeah.
But I also see other people, and those other people are valuable too, even if I don't know them. And I wanted to share this quote because I brought it up last week or the other week, and I just didn't, it wasn't right. But this is what it says. You can't truly, here's masculinity. If you're looking at masculinity in the sense of safety and defending the voiceless or defending the people that would be easier victims or whatever, right? You can't truly call yourself peaceful unless you're capable of great violence. If you're not capable of great violence, you're not peaceful, you're harmless. Right? I know a lot of people that claim to be peaceful, but you're not peaceful if you don't have strength under control anyways.
Yeah.
So masculinity is not having strength.
Isn't that what meekness is?
I think
strength
that's meekness.
Under control?
Strength under control. Remember what Jesus said, something that a lot of people kind of gloss over it. He's like, do you not know I could just call on and they'd wipe you all out?
He wouldn't have to lift a finger.
He wouldn't have to lift a finger, right?
No.
And that's one of the things that people yes, Jesus absolutely sets the example of being not doing anything in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Because he had a specific purpose. Right? And I do believe that should be the farthest thing from our mind in the sense of We're not looking for it. We're not doing anything that's trying to like get those situations, because that's toxic.
Yeah.
That's toxic. Toxic masculinity is saying, I want to be in a fight.
On the offensive.
On the offensive.
Yeah.
Healthy masculinity says, if I have to be in a fight, I'm prepared.
How much do you think, especially, it's almost football season, so especially college football season, and if you want to see toxic masculinity, you just look in the stands at these college football games and NFL games.
Sometimes you can watch the games and see it in the teams.
I mean, I saw it at a NASCAR race between a Bill Elliott fan and a Jeff Gordon fan, and we know how that probably went.
And the crazy part is, right, Bill Elliott and Jeff Gordon, they don't know who he is. They don't know who he is. They don't know who he is from nothing.
Neither one are going to appreciate this fight that went down in the stands
and you're
on the backstretch of Atlanta's Motor Speedway.
And you're defending their honor. I think that's the difference, right? Even Scripture says, "Fight the good fight," and it's a different fight.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not a violent fight. It's a good fight. The good fight is the fight of faith. And so, obviously, up to the very end extent, our desire should be repentance and reconciliation and restoration.
Yeah.
Right? You get somebody who's super flaming hot, mad, ready to come at you or whatever, diffusing and trying to like talk to them and kind of make them come to their senses. That should be our aim and our goal to, hey, let's bring this to a conversation. There's no need to throw hands. There's no need to fight.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when your hands are up, should it happen, hopefully you're prepared. That to me would be healthy masculinity. It's not looking for it, but willing to be about it if they have to be. But then you have the passive side, right? Where I just diddy-daddle through life, and I don't pay attention to anything that's going on in the world. I don't pay attention to, any type of person looking like a
turn a blind eye to whatever's going around.
You see some guy getting, grabbing some girl by the arm, and you just, I'm not going to say nothing.
None of my business.
Not my business. What? That's not healthy either. In my opinion. I know some people may not agree with that. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. You don't have to. But for me and what I believe in, where my convictions lie, is like, that's not going to fly unseen.
Yeah.
Now, I'm first going to try to be like, hey, do we need to call somebody? Because I'm not trying to start a fight, but like, something doesn't look right here. Now, I will say 9 times out of 10, if you fight that guy, that chick he's grabbing her arm, she's probably going to defend him if you beat him. So don't do it. Yeah. Don't do it, y'all. Don't do it. And that's the thing. Once again, and I hope we don't get canceled for this, because the intent of this is to not be toxic. Right. The intent is to not be somebody who seeks violence, but to be somebody who seeks restoration, reconciliation, repentance. Yeah. And so we've talked about this domineering, harsh, unemotional. We were kind of more on the domineering kind of anger aspect, but unemotional. Toxic masculinity is unemotional. It's not willing to be vulnerable. It's not willing to share their weakness, not willing to share that, hey, like, I'm struggling with some things, or I want to be better in these areas. I can't tell you how many people I've met over the years that are extremely successful in life when it comes to business. And extremely torn apart when it comes to home life. But then I've had the reverse side, where guys are extremely successful in their home life, in their walk with God, but horribly unsuccessful in life and in the world. Not of the world, but in the world. Yeah. And I think there should be a balance. I think we should be people who carry ourselves with integrity in our work. We carry ourselves, we work hard, we work towards goals, we chase dreams, or, things that God puts on our heart. We run after those things. Matter of fact, I'm doing a 30-day thing, and I'll do a plug right now, but we're doing a 30-day thing with Healthy and Holy, imhnh.com. I'm not just doing a 30-day challenge for everybody online. I'm doing a 30-day challenge for me. I need to be challenged. And by reaching out to other people saying, are you willing to do this with me? I now have accountability. Right? I now have people jumping in on this plan, which you can get at imhnh.com. It's free. If you don't start September 1st, start December 1st. Start whenever, but just start. right? We always look at the New Year's when I'm going to make all my
Was
resolutions.
it always going to be free? Because, some people don't appreciate nothing. If you give it to them, they have to pay for it I'll do it because I paid for it. Well, if that was true, every gym in America would be full right now.
Right.
Because me and Tara bought a gym membership over at the Y. We lived across the street from the Y. When I say across the street, I mean you walk out of my driveway into their driveway. We bought the thing. We had it for almost a year, and we didn't lose any weight. It didn't do us any good because we wouldn't even walk across the street to the gym, and we had the membership. And so, I mean, it did us no good.
Well, I will say this, and then we'll get going on the next point. But I will say this: I'm actually a part of another group that does charge.
Wow.
And so we actually just announced that we're building that out right now, and we're going to be launching it soon. Yeah. I'm teaming up with a buddy of mine in Florida. He owns a gym called Bold City, and what he's doing is Life on Fire, and it's for men. It's for entrepreneurs. It's for just men who want to be men of God, who want to grow in their walk with God, but also in their physical walk. So they want to grow spiritually and physically. But this is going to be coaching one-on-one. He's a fitness, whatever you call it, licensed fitness instructor, and he's a nutritionist. So he's able to do all of the things. He also has a team of people that can help with creating like these fitness plans and whatnot. The way we're coming alongside is kind of that spiritual aspect of growing in the Word. And once again, you can hear even in this podcast, I'm not all there. I haven't arrived. Right? There's still a part of me that I'm fighting and battling my flesh, which we've talked about in other episodes, right? Like I'm still even trying to grow and go. And I'm in the Word almost every single day, at least for a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I may not be reading like 3-4 chapters a day, but I mean, I'm in it and I'm asking God to search my heart and do a work in me. But we're launching this thing because there are men out there who, if they don't put some dollars in it, they won't fully own it.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely agree with you, that like, no, it's not going to always be free. This plan will always be free because it's something very simple that I created. It's to get people started.
But I mean, technically it's going to cost you the one thing that's the most valuable thing that you have, and that's your time.
That's right.
You're going to have to actually commit to it. And
that's right.
It's not going to help you if you don't commit to it.
Yeah, and I think that's a trait of masculinity.
Yeah.
That we should be committed.
Yeah.
Jesus was committed to his mission.
Our
Jesus was
kids
committed to his purpose. Yeah. I want Zane to see me working out.
Yeah.
Even when I'm doing it. So it's funny. I count cutting the grass as like a workout, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I have a push mower, and I push mow, and then I go and drop all the clippings out in the woods behind our house. Mm-hmm. And so like that becomes a workout, up and down the hill and whatever. And we have a smaller yard, but it's still a decent workout once you push the mower and weed eat or, edge the driveway, whatever. I want him to see that like taking care of what God's given us, mm-hmm. that stewardship is not just our home, but our temple, our body, that we take care of the body that God's given us. We only get one.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't take care of it, it moves towards atrophy. It moves towards creaks and cracks and, all the things that you're probably sitting here going, yes, brother, I drive a truck. Trust me, everything's crackle,
I've got a medicine cabinet down there full of solutions.
Hey, we sound like a breakfast cereal, snap, crackle, pop, right?
And that's just waking up with injuries we didn't go to bed with.
That's right. That's right. Did my wife beat me up while I was asleep? And so, like, I know we covered some of that, and we didn't dive too heavy into passivity. But I do want to talk about this unwilling to lead. I can't tell you how many times, and what I see, you see it on social media, you see it in all these things, where men are unwilling to lead their homes and lead their family. You don't lead in anger. You don't lead in machismo. You lead in love. You lead by an example. You lead, you show them that they matter more to you. So this week, that is kind of funny. I'm trying to figure out a way to get Clava to finally like think of herself a little bit. Like she is so selfless. She she was going to go buy a life jacket for Zane from Facebook Marketplace. Some lady was on there, and I was like, lady'd probably be more comfortable dealing with you than some dude showing up at her house, you know? And so we kind of talked about it. She's like, well, I want to go in town anyways and grab some stuff. And so she goes into town, and I text her as she's in town. I said, hey, while you're in town, go get a coffee. You know, she's always talking about wanting some fries. I'm like, go get some fries, you know, if that's what you want. Like, go do something for you.
Yeah.
Please go do something for you. Not even 20 minutes later, when she's at Sam's Club, she's like, they have Hey Dudes on sale. They have Adidas that are pretty sharp. They have a bunch of clothes here. And I think you could use some of these clothes. They'll go really good with your shirts and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I just said, get a coffee. Go do something for you. I don't care. Get your hair done, get your nails did. I don't know what that looks like. She's not really that type to get her nails done. But it's, you know, it's like, I wanted you to go be, but that is a blessing to her.
Yeah.
You know, and so when we lead, I think that's another reason why she's so apt to do that, is because I'm leading in love, where I'm thinking of her. I'm trying to help in the kitchen. I'm trying to help in the house. I'm cleaning some stuff up, and she's asleep, and I'm, you know, trying to clean up some things. And I'm not perfect about it. Not perfect. Right. There are times where dishes are in the sink and I go to bed and the dishes are in the sink in the morning. And, you know.
Yeah. I want to add something to that, especially with your kids watching you and your wife watching you, not to mention other people around you watch you. One thing about being a good leader is those same people, your kids, your wife, your parents, your friends, they also need to watch you be a follower at times too. They need to see you be a part of a team where you're not the main person on that team, because they're not always going to be the main person on the teams they're on.
Right.
And they need to see what it's like to shut up, listen, and be the person that supports the team or the captain. Because if we'll never be a great leader if we don't learn how to be a good follower.
That's a good word. You'll never be a great leader if you don't learn how to be a good follower.
Yeah, because it's baby steps.
That's a good word. That's
and
a good word.
You can't be a great leader if you haven't been a good follower. David was not a good leader because just all of a sudden he decided to fight, Goliath. No, he was following the Lord. And he was taking the battles that God gave him as he was being a leader of sheep, even though he was considered the lowest of his family.
Right. Not even considered a son.
Not even considered a son.
To be like, hey, bring your sons.
But God noticed him. God sent his own man, Samuel, to go find him and pick him out especially to let him know, look, it might not be your time right now, but your time's coming. And that planted a seed in David. Yeah. And we can tell our kids, look, right now might not be your time.
Yeah.
On this team or at your Sunday school class or at school. Yeah. But your time is coming. Yeah. Keep your ears open, keep your mouth shut, and learn how to follow directions.
Yeah. Work on your skill sets. Work on the things that you can be good at, that you can be proficient at. Work on the things that you enjoy. That like, wow, this is something I can get better at.
Exactly.
Like, work on the skills and the things that interest you.
Exactly.
It may not be your time to be on the stage, but if you're not practicing for hours at home on the guitar, right? Like you're not going to get on stage and lead worship.
Exactly. How many times have you seen people fail because they didn't listen? You'll be in the same class with these people that are steady talking, steady being a disruption, steady wanting to say what they want to say instead of listening to the instructions that was given, and then they're the first people to fail, but you didn't because you listened.
Yeah.
You heard every single thing that the teacher was saying or the coach was saying or the preacher was saying.
That's good.
You're not going to fail as long as you listen, because you're prepared, and people who do more talking than listening are not prepared for the battle because they're not going to be ready when it hits the fan.
That's right. And when they're unwilling to lead in other areas, right? Like, we know that the Bible calls women to submission, men to crucifixion. We talked about that a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And when we're called to lead into a place of uncomfort, when we were deciding to leave our hometown, my town that I know everybody there, like, bro, one phone call and I'd have a videographer here. One phone call, I'd have a graphic designer knocking out stuff for us. You know what I mean? One text message, and you and I would probably find a building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's and there are people that I've connected with there that would invest in us at a crazy rate, right? Like,
which we do need a building.
We do need a building. We do need a building. That would be awesome. But what's amazing though is like when I was feeling this tug, kind of like this season's coming to an end. You know, I didn't just go in and say, Clava, the Lord's calling me to leave. We got to leave. We got to get out of here. Because that sounds like you're running from something. Right? Well, the Lord told me. What does that do when you say, well, the Lord told me? That makes whoever you're talking to, what are they going to tell the Lord? You're going to tell I can't tell the Lord no. And the Bible says, do not say that God says. Yeah. Unless he truly says it, right? Because there's a lot of people out there saying God says this and God says that. God ain't talking. You know?
Test the spirits.
Test the spirit.
Yeah, capture every thought.
Yep, like you said last week. capture every thought. Take it obedience to Jesus, right? Take it in obedience to Jesus. And so what happened, though, is there was this shift happening in my heart. And I started praying and I started talking to Clava about, you know, where do you see us? I didn't just say, I don't want to be here. I said, where do you see us? Where do you see? She said, I'm at a point right now. She said, I'll take a dart and I'll say, Lord, where are you calling us? And I'll throw it at a map. Yeah. And wherever it lands, that's where we going. I was like, what? Because my wife was like not wanting to leave for the longest time. But God has started doing a work in her heart. So leading was not me forcing her into a direction. Leading was asking her, are our hearts in alignment right now? Now, there may be a time, and this is where it can get testy for people, there may be a time where God is truly saying, this is what needs to happen. If I'm not loving my wife in a way that honors God, if I'm not loving her and leading her in other areas, then when I come for that big ask, she's not going to trust my leadership. So it's going to be hard for her to submit to my desire to lead. Oh, I feel like God's calling me to Florida. She'd be like, you ain't done nothing while we've been here. God ain't calling us over there. What? How do I know if I don't go? We go over there. You're not doing nothing, because that's what a lot of ladies will say. And I'm not judging the ladies. They might be dead on for that, right? They might be right on the money. You wasn't nothing here. You ain't gonna be nothing over there. And you know that can be a dangerous position too.
Well, one thing is, you know, when we come home and tell our wives, look, the Lord spoke to me and he wants me to move here, there, yonder. Well, he told you that on, you know, Friday. Well, she saw you doing this and this and this and this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You really don't have the credibility. That's right. So you have to build up that credibility for your spouse to be like, okay, I'm all in, whatever you want to do. Yeah. It takes a while, because if you don't have the credibility, because if you feel like, and I would say this to anybody that come up to me and say, well, I think God's telling me to do this and that and the other. And, you know, if I know a little bit about you and I see what you do on a daily basis and what you post, or if you tell me about yourself and like, what's going on in your life? Are you and your wife fighting all the time? Are you and your boss fighting all the time? Do you hate your job? Because there might be a motive behind why you think God's telling you these things. Right. Not just because, well, I've been praying God give me a better job in, you know, Saskatoon somewhere. And all of a sudden, you know, so you have to check your motivations, you know, of that person. But also, you know, is this somebody that seeks wise counsel on a you know, daily basis, or, you know, or at least a frequent basis? Or is this somebody that just goes with his thoughts and what he feel like God's telling him all the time? Because, you know, they said something in a financial class that I went to Sunday night. You know, the wise man, the wisest people have wise counsel, and it's by many people, not just one person. Yeah. You know, because a financial advisor, he has to have people that he gets his knowledge from. Correct. You know, and it has to be renewed all the time, because times are always changing.
Things are shifting.
Yeah. So you have to trust who that person is trained in what they're telling you. Yeah. So, you know, if you're somebody that, you know, living like hell Monday through Saturday, and then just because you prayed Sunday morning, you feel like God's, sending you to Saskatoon somewhere to start a church somewhere. Well, you didn't start a church at home. How the hell are you going to start a church in Saskatoon if your own house is, being run like the gates of hell right now?
Come on.
So, I mean, I call BS on that kind of crap.
Yeah.
I say test those spirits. Capture that thought. Is this your pride telling you that you want to be in charge? You want to be the man? You want to be Moses? With the Hebrews? I mean, come on. Yeah. You have to be, one with the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. You have to be somebody that has built consistency with the Lord Jesus Christ. And with the Lord. He tested Abraham many times to make sure that he was going to, follow him. Even though God knew the end from the beginning, from the end, he tested him and he built him up before he used him. Yeah. He built David up before he used him. And if it's somebody, that's living like hell all week long, I would tell you, you need to get wise counsel from good Christian people in your church or wherever before you make big decisions like that and you go to your wife, because you're just going to, if you've let her down all week long and then you come in with this and then next week you want to be a fireman, you got to have some consistency. Otherwise, you don't have a leg to stand on.
The proof is in the reps.
Yeah.
The proof is in what you're doing, One of the things that you've said, and I'm not talking me up, you've said this to me,
right?
Is that when we started doing this thing and you saw me coming through and like I'm learning the camera and I'm doing this and we're getting the lights and you saw that I was as bought in as you were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you were like, okay, this can go somewhere. This can do something.
And this was just like you just said, this was all on what I felt God was telling me to do. Is to contact you like, man, I really feel like we need to do a podcast together, a Christian podcast together. And, when God gave me that confirmation in my spirit, that you were on board with that too, that you had been thinking the same thing, that's why I was like, this is, God's in this. And I had people around me when I would tell people about it before we ever got to this point. Yeah. They would be like, you're crazy. Why are you doing this? You shouldn't do this. This is a lot of money. This is a lot of time. It takes up a lot of space. It's going to take up part of your life. I haven't really seen you be consistent in a whole lot of other things. So why do you think, this is going to work? And I was like, I really don't know. I'm just trusting God that this is going to work.
But the flip side of that is though, you were being consistent.
Yeah.
You were showing up to the Pain into Purpose class.
Yeah.
Probably when you didn't want to.
Yeah.
Right. There were a few times I was like, I really don't want to go to that right now.
Everybody needed it because everybody's got pain.
Everybody's got pain and grief of some sort.
Yes.
We've either had a lost season. We've either had, we've had lost probably calling. For a lot of people, like the gifts and calling are irrevocable.
Right.
But we may, by our selfish nature, choose to never step into the calling.
Yep.
And there will always be that I'm missing something. Something is missing here. And I was in a season like that where I'm like, something is missing. And a part of that was community. We moved into a new community and we didn't know people. And so I didn't have the godly community that I once had that spurred me on towards good deeds, that spurred me on towards the things of God, which is amazing. I got a part of a group from going to a men's Bible study. I got a part of a group that was like a culture, creative, not culture, a creative group. And there were some things in that group. That group is dissolved. I'm still friends with the guys, but some of that group is dissolved. But just the few weeks of being in that group put a fire under me to be able to pursue these things. And so, as we're over here, we're kind of going all over the place right now. I want to bring this back to the masculinity point, and let's talk about the ultimate man, Jesus. So there's the culture's confusion, which we kind of went through, and then we went through on a little bit of rabbit trail, but then Jesus' clarity. The core truth is Jesus perfectly modeled responsibility, courage, and humility. So responsibility, Jesus took responsibility for his mission, For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. He cared for people's needs, teaching, healing, and leading, even when exhausted. Okay? Mark chapter 6, verse 34 talks about that. Then he showed courage. Jesus boldly confronted religious leaders with truth in Matthew 23 when he said, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees." He stood up to the scribes and Pharisees. He didn't back down from speaking about sin, even when it risked his life. We discussed this previously in John chapter 8, verse 11. Go, and from now on, sin no more. He boldly confronted religious leaders in the temple, right? And he said, "This is my Father's house. You made it a den of thieves," right? Like
Yes.
you've turned this into a den of thieves, and this is my Father's house. And so Jesus confronted these religious leaders, and he also confronted these religious leaders when it was a possible danger to himself. And so he stood his ground. And Jesus also showed humility. He washed his disciples' feet, taking the role of a servant. He humbled himself to the point of death on a cross, Philippians 2, verses 5 through 8. He loved people as they were, tax collectors, sinners, the broken, but he also called them to a higher place. He loved them where they were, but he didn't leave them where they were, right? We see Matthew, the tax collector. Matthew throws a party, right? I used to call it in youth group, we had a Matthew party, where what we would do is I would have, the kids would invite everybody who wasn't church type people to an event that we were doing. We would do it either at the church, or we would do it at a bowling alley, or we would do it wherever. And we're just like, we're just going to go have this crazy party. And we're going to make this as attractive as possible by trying to lower the cost and try to do some different things. So I had parents that gave some money, different things that we did so that the kids would be like, I want to go to that. You know what I mean? And, and we did a Nerf night. We had a kid come from, him and his mom drove from, somewhere in Georgia, like the middle of Georgia. They drove hours and stayed at a hotel, and they came all the way, to our youth group because we were doing, she's like, that just looked fun. I saw it on the internet. It's like, I threw hashtags on there, but that was the thing. Like, so in humility, right? Jesus loved people where they were, but he didn't leave them there. And so when you picture Jesus, do you see him as strong and courageous, or just purely gentle and humble? And why not both?
Exactly. Like you said, strength under control. One thing, if you don't mind me adding something to this,
absolutely.
There's one thing that we have not mentioned, but the Holy Spirit just put it on me, and that's a responsibility. A man needs to be responsible for something, even if it's just himself. If he doesn't even have kids, a Christian man needs to be responsible for who he hangs around with, what job he does, who he serves, because no matter whether you're married or not, you need to be serving somebody. Yeah. Even if it's helping out, at the church or at a ministry. But one big thing is you need to be serving your parents. If your parents are in the same town as you,
you're a young
you need
single
to be
person
serving
or whatever.
You need to be serving your parents still. Just because you don't live with them, don't mean you shouldn't be serving them.
But you should not be bowing down to them in the sense of that your home is suffering. Yeah.
But
right?
you should be
available
helping.
to help. And
exactly.
I will say responsibility was that first point. So,
it was?
Yeah, I know. I went through a bunch right there, so it's easy for it to kind of gloss over. But Jesus took responsibility for his mission. Yeah. Right? And we all have a mission. Yes. To seek and save.
And we should have a goal. Right? Every man should have some goals too. Yeah. Personal goals.
Yeah. And I believe God
gives getting in shape.
Well, I believe God gives us vision of a vision of who we'd want to be. Yeah. The question is, do we have the grit to trust that his grace has enough to get us there? Right. Because we got to have some grit. We got to have something in there that says, I'm willing to sweat. I'm willing to put in some work. And it doesn't mean I'm going to go, destroy myself in the gym every day, but I'm going to put in some work consistently over time. And I will share this for the people online. My wife told me today, she said, your arms are looking bigger. Your chest is looking more formed. I'm not crazy working out. I'm doing push-ups every once in a while. Like throughout the day, I might have, I'm going to drop down and do like 10, 15 push-ups, 20, depending on what I can do, right? Sometimes my arm and my shoulders kind of hurt a little bit, and I've been doing pull-ups. I've got a pull-up bar in our garage, and I just walk into the garage real quick, and I bust out, 3, 4, sometimes 5, right? It just depends on what my arms can handle in that moment.
Right.
Because I'm not as strong as I want to be, and I'm not as strong as I used to be, but I'm getting stronger.
Yeah.
Because just a few months ago, one pull-up was about all I had in me, right? And so there's something to be said with repetition as we keep doing these things, right? As we keep working on our responsibility, trying to be a little bit more responsible or handle something in a more responsible way, or we work on our courage to stand up for what's right and true and just and pleasing in God's sight. And we try to walk in humility. Look, the hardest part for me when it comes to the gospel message, right, is you have Jesus, who is the perfection of earthly people, right? He's God in the flesh, right? So Jesus is a perfect man. Okay? I am an imperfect man.
Yeah. I
am called to teach his truth. I cannot practice his truth perfectly.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's hard to I want to declare God's truth, but I am a sinner saved by grace. So the Bible says, yes, I'm a saint, but I'm a saint even though I ain't, right?
Right.
I'm a saint because he covers my imperfection. His blood is enough to go straight over me, and it's like God's looking at his own son when he looks at us.
Yeah.
And so when we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive us, purify us of all unrighteousness. He can purify us, but we can't purify ourselves. We can try to live pure, but we will not be pure this side of heaven completely. We will have impure thoughts. We will have impure motives. But can we keep those things under check? And the way we do that is we look at who Jesus was, and we say, Lord, help me to model this more. Going back to earlier when we were talking about kind of standing our ground and whatever else, I've really wrestled with this.
Yeah.
Man, am I at a position where if it was just me, I'd lay my life down. But it's not just me. And that's where I wrestle, and I think it's going to forever be a wrestle, and it should be a wrestle.
How important is it for your wife? Because I know we've been talking a lot about the men, but how important is it to have a wife that helps you be that man or helps you reach that goal?
Man.
And what are some of the things women can do to support a man so that he feels like he is the leader of that household? I mean, do you think sometimes that maybe women jump in there and do the job because they know their man's not going to, or if their man's lazy, so they jump in there and do the parenting. They jump in there and do the schoolwork, or they'll jump in there to fill the gaps that they feel like, or the shortcomings that their husband isn't doing. What are some of the things, instead of maybe bashing a man, look, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, instead of, what are some ways that they could talk to their husband about these things to help them?
So the way I will say this, if you want to draw the lion out of your man, you've got to see a lion in him first. You've got to see what. Now I'm not talking lion, a lion. You want to
see in him the way God sees him. His potential.
You've got to see his potential and call him towards it in a loving way. One of the ways Clava does that, and she's about to get bragged on like nobody's business. Clava will come in. If I'm working on something, she'll come over. She'll bring me a drink. If I'm working in the yard, she'll just bring me a drink. She doesn't ask. She doesn't whatever. She'll bring me a drink. She'll tell me how good the yard looks, even if I hadn't even fully finished it. Wow, it's looking so good.
Tara does that.
You're doing great.
She does that.
I recently was just working on something, and she came in and she said, "I am so proud of you. You are putting in so much work. Like, I know that right now you don't see the payoff for this, but I can see you putting in the work." She came in with a drink, and it had a napkin. And it said, "I'm proud of you. I love you." She came in I still have the napkins. I hold on to the napkins.
Yeah.
She's constantly speaking life over me and reminding me that I am not necessarily what I believe about myself.
Say that again.
I am not what I believe about myself. I am what God says I am. And I am also who she says I am. If she was tearing me down, brother, I don't know if I would have made it this far.
Well, our personalities are, I mean, different personalities, of course, but, I'm the kind of person, a compliment goes a long way with me.
Bro, it's fuel.
I mean, it's like loyalty, makes me feel like royalty when my wife tells me something,
fire.
But
that needs to be on a shirt, brother.
But
I'm stealing it.
And it's just the same as, my boss at work, the owner of the company, one good pat on the back from him will make me do 100 things right.
Yeah.
But one bad word from him, or one bad word, or one criticism from my wife will also ruin 100 thoughts that I have down the road.
Yeah.
Because every time I think about doing something good for him or her, I'm going to remember that one bad thing they said.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one that goes through that. I'm sure a lot of men go through that.
Yeah.
One kind word goes a long way, but one bad word also goes the same distance sometimes.
Yeah. And I would also say this, a part of being a man who leads, and this is something I have expressed in our marriage, and I intentionally try to do this, is if you don't like the fruit that's coming from your wife, think about how you're watering her. Think about how you're nourishing her, how you're cultivating her and helping her to grow. I've always told, and Clava would gladly get on here and say this, my goal is to make her bloom. My goal is to set up the environment where she feels the peace and the warmth of the sun, and that she's watered with the word. She's watered with words from me, but also the word of God. She's watered with my encouragement. And I'm not always great at this, but I try to intentionally start saying things. Even lately, I've just been every day I try to give her like some compliment that's just like, it's not like a just a random blah blah. Like, you are so incredible with Zane. You do such an amazing job with our household. You're so thoughtful. You're so caring. And I'm not the greatest at this, so I don't want people to be on there or online and be like, wow, that guy's amazing. Like, no, I recognize that I'm not amazing. But when she tells me I am, I can respond back with seeing her even in more light, right? And so, darkness does not drive out darkness. Darkness will only create more darkness. Like, look, the world breaks us down enough. We need to be building up each other in our homes.
Yeah.
We have to be careful what we say. Sarcasm, if I remember correctly, I'd have to research it out, but someone once told me sarcasm is scarcasm. Sarcasm is a way to stab and say, just kidding. Yeah. Like, I'm not really saying something, but I'm saying something.
Yeah.
And sarcasm cuts, man.
Man, that's tough.
Because there's truth in it.
Because I do that to my wife all the time.
Yeah.
The sarcasm, I am forever, having a little quick shot here, shot there. And then that you say that probably does bubble back or come back on me down the road for some of those things. Because, some women will flat out tell you there's a little bit of truth in that kidding every single time.
There is, absolutely.
Even Cupid's arrow can be a poison dart sometimes.
Yeah. And you said something right there where you said like that when you say these things, let me make sure I say this right, but when you say these things to them, you are the person who's supposed to be their protector. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to I don't mean provider like in the sense of just money, but you
protect their heart.
You're providing the guard for their life.
Yeah,
you are there as a protector and a provider, and you're providing nourishment to their soul. And so when we speak down to our wives, or when we speak in an evil way or a wicked way towards them, or a degrading way or whatever, when we say certain things, we have to realize that cuts deep, and it could bring up past wounds.
Well, my wife, when we first got married, she used to say this thing. It was usually after an argument had occurred. She would say, you're supposed to protect my heart, not be the one who breaks it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of times that would convict me into an apology.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, yeah, I know. I never thought about it. I was supposed to protect your heart. I thought I was supposed to protect your physical being, but
Right.
I may not have always thought about it in the heat of the moment of protecting your heart. I wouldn't let anybody else talk to you the way that I talk to you. So I need to clean up the way that I talk to you.
That's right. And toxic masculinity will die for their wife, but not live for her.
Shut up, brother. Shut up. Just shut up.
Right? Like that's toxic, right?
I like that.
I'll die for you, but I won't live for you now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because living for you is a greater sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because living for you means I have to show up every day, not just one time, and take the bullet.
How many times do we do that for Jesus? We're like, oh, I would die for Jesus. We're like, Peter, I would die for you.
I never knew the man.
I never. And then as soon as the spears come out, like, by yourself, brother, you're the Lone Ranger now.
I mean, little girl comes around, you're like, nah, I never knew him. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And so Jesus brings this clarity. And once again, this is not a perfect discussion because we are walking through at the same time. We're trying to like process these things and think through these things. There's no script. I just have an outline. And then here's where the reality check hits. And you already hit me with a few reality checks throughout this time, right? Because I was kind of talking about like defending myself, whatever else. And I believe you're absolutely right. It needed to be further communicated that is the last ditch effort. And we should do everything in our power.
Should your kids ever see you get beat up?
I hope not. But if they did, you know what I want them to see? I want them to see me get back up.
And would they lose respect for you if they see you get beat up?
I think it depends on how you carry yourself.
If they saw you not fight, I think about that sometimes with my kids. When they were little, I was like, what if I actually got beat up in front of my kids? Especially for running my own mouth when I shouldn't have.
I think that would be a different
That
thing.
would be like, that's a game changer. That's a humbling experience.
Where I think the difference would be like is if you completely lost, like you just didn't even hold your ground. If they knew you weren't instigating, you were defending, and that you were willing to take that hit.
Yeah,
they would say, "Look, my dad doesn't walk around acting like he's the toughest, baddest guy in the ground, in the world." Yeah. And so when he stood up knowing he might not win this.
That's right, because he stood up for us.
Remember, toxic masculinity is looking for a fight you can win.
Yeah,
healthy masculinity is being willing to fight even if you lose.
I heard. I was listening to a Christian counselor. He has his own podcast. And the only reason I brought that subject up was because he was calling in because he felt like his wife looks down on him now because they were at a festival and some guy popped her on the butt and was being derogatory towards her. And in defending her honor, he got beat up by this guy badly. I'm talking broken jaw.
Oh, wow.
Eye socket busted or whatever.
Oh, wow.
But because his wife saw him get beat up, which granted nothing happened to her, but she saw him get beat up, all of a sudden it ruined the intimacy that they had together. She no longer saw him. He felt like she didn't see him as a strong man anymore. Mm-hmm. And then I think part of it was her PTSD from this traumatic situation and his PTSD. Mm-hmm. I never got a solution on that show because they never really got to the very bottom of it. Mm-hmm. But I think the PTSD of it, they never, at that point, they still hadn't really come to a solution. And he was even thinking that his wife was going to leave him eventually.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what that's like if a woman does see her man fail like that.
Yeah. Well, I think number one, that there was probably more going on than in that moment that he fought for her. I think there was a little bit more, and I don't know the particular case or situation. I would hope and I would think that my wife would realize, and once again, it depends on how he escalated it. I'm going to beat your blah 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 blah, and I'm going to da da da. If he escalated it to an even crazier thing, like, hey, look, man, can you apologize to my wife, man? Like, that was mad disrespectful. Like, it just wasn't necessary. Yeah. I think that's different than, I'm gonna bust you in your head. Like, you don't even know who you're talking to. You know, I saw a video. Yeah. I saw a video the other day. You probably seen this video. There's this this boxer is standing up in the stands, and the guy doesn't know he's a boxer, and he's yelling in his face, and he's blah 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 blah. And the guy is yelling in this guy's face, and he's below him on the step, and people start saying, if only he knew who he was threatening. Wow. And this guy is like a championship fighter, like boxer, and he's a tough dude. Yeah. And so he's sitting there and he's just like, he's just like,
if you just knew.
But because like this guy's like, but that tells me how much strength that man really has.
That was meekness.
Because he knows he can wreck this dude's world.
Yeah.
But the flip side is this too. All it takes is one shot.
Yeah.
And even a champion can go down.
Yeah.
How many champions have we seen get knocked out?
That's why you don't see professional wrestlers in bars and places like that, because if they ever got beat up in real life, they'd be done. Their career would be over with
it for them. And UFC people are registered weapons.
Yeah.
UFC pro fighters are registered weapons. So if they get into an altercation with an everyday Joe, they literally are facing charges because they're a registered weapon because of their skill set.
Well, and that goes for anybody. Even if you don't have that skill,
you're not
registered,
right.
You could get charged for
that.
Get charged for that. But that's a situation where you don't know. You just don't know who you're in front of, and that's that meekness you're talking about. Yeah. You know, that strength under control.
I think. Excuse me, I did not mean to burp on the mic. I'm sorry. I think that what you were saying though about that guy and the way his wife looked at him, I think there was an issue of follow up and follow through as well. Mm. I think there needs to be conversations.
Yeah.
There needs to be moments. There was a time where I was going to go stand up to somebody for Clava. I was going to go stand up to them. And thank God I had wise counsel. And when I talked to her dad, because her dad's kind of a tough guy. Her dad is a real tough guy.
He is very tough.
But
he is the example of meekness.
He is. Yeah,
he is strength under control.
He is, and he's a little guy.
Yeah,
but he's been put back together like Humpty Dumpty. Like he's literally been put back together.
Not only did he have meekness, he had authority.
He had authority,
which was a big deal.
Yeah. And but what was crazy is he said, if you confront that guy and you get in a fight, what does he have to lose versus what do you have to lose? And I said, well, I mean, I could lose the fight. He goes, you could lose a lot more than that.
Yeah.
He goes, you matter in this area. You are a person of integrity and character and self-control, and you are an example. And he hit me like hard. Like, this is my father-in-law, you know. He wasn't my father-in-law at the time. He was just my girlfriend's dad. But he was like, if you won the fight, what do you win? Because you still lose all that other stuff too.
Yeah.
And I was like,
wow.
And he said, you don't need to worry about him. Mm-mm. You've already won because she doesn't want him. And I was like, whoa. But that being said, and guys, this has kind of gone in some different directions, but
it's a bit of an extreme, situation, but you can also understand that even in business, if you have a failed business, the people around you are going to look at you different. If you fail, when you fail in front of them and you let them down, you feel like you've lost their respect.
Yeah.
Because you've let your family down. Even if your family doesn't feel like you've done something wrong.
Right.
Because really they saw you try and yet it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Because I have been in relationships with women before where a failure is, devastating. They don't even see you, as a provider anymore. And that takes you down a whole different road. And we won't open that tonight. But I'm just saying it doesn't always have to be a physical altercation. It can be a loss in business, or it could be you cheated on your wife, and failing in front of, your family and friends, it can be devastating because they won't let you live it down sometimes.
Well, I want to share a quote that this is actually a quote that I try to live by. I just want to make sure I said it right. Thomas Edison, when it came to creating the light bulb and perfecting it, he says, I have not failed 10,000 times. I've successfully found 10,000 ways that will not work.
I like that.
And
I
so
like that.
I think once again, it comes down to, did you give your all? And look, it's only failure if you don't learn something from it. It's only failure, if you keep repeating the same mistake over and over again. And that doesn't mean trying to launch a business. I talked to a millionaire, and he said, if you knew how many businesses I've failed in, you would think I'm not a success.
Yeah.
But if you look at my life and my bank account now, you'd think I'm a tremendous success.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, if I ever were to put out there how many things I've closed, how many things I've shut down, you would not think I'm a success. But when you talk to me now and sit at the table with me, you go, this guy's got it.
When I was looking for investors for a garbage company that I was starting years ago, I found this one investor, and they had just they probably had $3 or $4 million in the bank, which today that doesn't seem like a very rich person, but back in the day that was equivalent to about $20 million.
Yeah. No, that's a lot of money.
And I remember, him telling me, I was like, man, that's a lot of money, because, he was like, well, I have this much money to invest because this is what I have in my bank account. And he showed me on his spreadsheet what he had and what percentage that he was going to use to invest.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. I had never even seen somebody that had that kind of money. He's like, well, it only took me about 10 times that amount of money to make that amount of money. So it's all relative to what you spent to get there.
Yeah.
And
time and sacrifice.
Time and sacrifice.
Yep.
He said, I spent, probably $40 million to have $2 million in the bank.
Yep.
You didn't see what it took to get there.
That's right.
That's
right.
And he's like, well, I don't want to lose my money with you, so we got to be very careful with what I do give you.
Yeah. I wrote a rap song a long time ago. I said, you see my arrival, it's been a long flight. Right? They know you've made it when you made it.
Yeah.
But they didn't see the 300 designs you scrapped.
Right.
They didn't see no one. I should have put up a time lapse today.
Yeah.
I worked on my logo to get it perfectly balanced for 4 hours straight. Just to get it perfectly balanced. I'm creating guides upon guides upon guides, and I'm counting the squares in between the grids on the design program just to get it right, because when I get it manufactured, it's going to be very obvious if it's not right. Okay, so anyways, let's land this plane. Reality check. All right, so we talked about culture's confusion, a little bit of our confusion. Guys, once again, we're just talking.
Yeah.
We're sharing. And these are some things we've experienced, and we're not all there yet. We have not arrived.
No, these are the conversations that you and I have when we're not in front of these microphones.
That's right.
There's no difference.
The only difference here is we're trying to be a little bit less candid. Like, there's some things we're probably trying not to.
Yeah, he knows I'm holding back.
Yeah. We're all, we all are. But culture's confusion, Jesus' clarity. And I know we didn't dive into like the culture. We could dive in culture's confusion on so many levels, but I just wanted to focus on, kind of the toxic versus the passivity, but then going, okay, now we look at Jesus. Jesus brings clarity. So here's the reality check. Men today feel stuck between cultural expectations, but Jesus shows us manhood rooted in truth, not trends. Rooted in truth, not trends.
Well, trends are not everlasting.
No. There's always going to be a new shiny thing, a new thing that's the thing to do now, and everybody's doing this now, and everybody's an influencer in this way, and does this and does that and does this and the third, and like they want to get all the likes and all that. There's always going to be a trend. There's always going to be something, and if that's how you live your life, you will burn out.
Yeah,
you will absolutely run yourself into the ground if you're just trying to be the coolest, most hip, most popular thing at all times, and you're gonna have to give in more often than not, because those who stand for nothing will fall for anything. Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything.
Weak foundation.
That's right. And so here are some examples. Responsibility. Leading at home doesn't mean controlling. It means serving like Jesus. We talked about that. Courage is speaking truth at work or in friendships, which may be unpopular, but Jesus never compromised truth for comfort. Then humility. It's not weakness to admit failure or apologize. We just talked about failures.
Yeah.
Right? It's strength modeled by Christ himself. Matter of fact, Scripture says that in our weakness, his strength is most evident. That God's strength and power works itself in us and through us, in and through our weaknesses. But we have to humbly submit those weaknesses. We have to humbly submit, God, I don't have the strength. Can you give me the strength? You know, a lot of people say, why is it when people are at the bottom of their ropes and at the, you know, the end of everything, right, that they finally see Jesus? And I'm like, well, when you're on your knees and your face is on the ground, there's only one more direction to go, and it's to look up. When you realize you're not enough. I read a book, and I recommend this book, The End of Me. When you realize that you're not enough in your own strength, in your own will, in your own, you know, whatever, mindset, grind, hustle, whatever. When you realize that you're not enough and it'll never be enough, a peace comes over you that you realize he is. And he comes alongside and with me and partners with me. And I do think there's time for grind, but there's time for rest. I was looking at hats from a brand that I like. I like their style and the way they make certain things, but I don't like everything they say. And they had a hat that had like a cross out on the word sleep. No sleep. The people of God should be able to sleep.
Yeah.
You know why we should be able to sleep? Because when we're not working, he is.
That's right.
We should be able to trust and have faith that there is a time that we work, but we work so that we can then rest and trust God with the rest. Right?
Yep.
And let's see. What area, responsibility, courage, or humility? So what area, responsibility, courage, or humility feels most countercultural to live out today? Pretty much all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Pretty
if we're
much.
being honest.
Yep.
We're being honest. It feels like all of them. To be responsible, no one expects it.
Yeah.
Right? They're almost blown away. I remember telling our young adults when I was a young adults pastor, I was like, if you would just show up to your job, be ready to work, be focused at work, and willing to learn, you will move up the ranks.
You're already ahead of 90%.
You're ahead of 90% of people. You're showing up. You're doing whatever. I used to tell her, they would get a new job and they would say, I'm going to tell them I need off on Thursdays and Sundays. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Well, I need church. No. Go in there and set such an example by what you do that one day when they come to you and say, what day would you like off? Because they're going to see what you believe by how you behave, by what you do behind the scenes. They're going to know this kid's different. And you're going to have a moment to say, hey, I've been here for so long. Is there any way we could work out it? Like I could be off on a Thursday or a Sunday. I can't tell you how many people, young adults, that when they put in the work and then they asked, they said, we'll give you Thursday and Sunday because you're valuable. Yeah. You can set a schedule when you're the one that shows up and does, and does the work. Now, I'm not telling you to be the guy that bends over for everybody and just, gets ran around to do everything. That's also dangerous too. And that's where you need to have a backbone where you say, hey, we need to be a team. We need to accomplish this together.
Yeah.
Which, hey, that's another topic for another day. So how can we reflect Jesus's model in our own families, friendships, and workplaces?
Well, we can definitely be an example to them by actually being humble enough to be a good follower. Being a good follower is the key to being a great employee. You don't have to be the supervisor or the boss or the manager or the assistant manager. You don't have to be that person. You actually have more power being a great follower than you ever will have being a supervisor or a manager. Because good managers and supervisors, they actually have to work harder supporting you while you support the whole company. Because managers and supervisors don't support the whole company. They're supposed to support you because you are the backbone of the company. You're the one doing the work. If they don't help prop you up, especially in times where you're tired, you're not going to be able to do your job, and you're going to fail, and the company's going to fail. Because if all the followers call in one day and all that's left are the supervisors, you're not going to have enough people to get the job done anyway.
Well, I would counteract that just a little bit, where I would say for a season,
yeah,
you're going to show up and you're going to be whatever they need you to be.
Yeah.
But by your example and by your willingness to help others get kind of rise up to that standard and to level up, they will see leadership on you and in you. And I will tell you, some of the best leaders I've ever been under were guys who were incredible followers.
Yeah.
Some of the most the leaders I respect the most are the ones that know what it means to be in the trenches.
Yep.
That know what it's like to be at that lowest position.
I've had one good one.
It's very, very hard.
It's very rare.
Very hard. Very rare. Because a lot of times leaders just want to lead people, but they don't forget, they forget that people, they need instruction. They need direction. And so they're just like, get this done. And it's like, dude, get in the trenches with them, and you got people that got your back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've seen that only a handful of times, in certain places. And in my life, there was one job where the guy came in and got in the trenches with me, and it changed the way I looked at the job. Like, it changed the way I showed up, because I knew he was willing to do the work. And I'll share this, and I won't say any names, but I've got a friend back home who owns a business, and I was so impressed. They came to do work for us at our house. His worker showed up and was kind of unloading some stuff or whatever, and he pulls up in his nice truck because he owns the business, right? He owns the company, all the employees, right? He's over all of them. And so him and his buddy, they got two partners, but he gets out of his truck and he starts unloading the other guys, the van with the guy. And then he says, "Hey man, do you need this? You need this? Yeah. Oh, I'll get that too." And I'm sitting there going, okay, that man owns the company. He's the co-owner of this company. He's a friend of mine. And he ain't just helping that man with that van because I'm there.
Yeah.
That's the first thing he did when he pulled up. And then he came and talked to me.
That's awesome.
And he said, "This is what these guys are doing today, blah, blah, blah. Hey, you guys got any questions? You got any questions about this particular job? Yeah, what about this? All right, here's what I would do. I would boom, 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 boom. Yes, sir. That sounds good. Yes, sir." And they know that he would do that. He doesn't have to, but he set that example. And so, so that being said, the way that we reflect Jesus's model is we reflect Jesus's model. We serve, we set an example. If we want our house to be clean, we don't just say, "Woman, clean the house." We help clean.
Yeah, that wouldn't work in my house.
That wouldn't work, brother. I'd be like, "Hey, Steve, we meeting up? Steve, how come you're not answering your phone? Steve, where are you? Steve, it's been 5 days.
Blink if you're in trouble."
Yeah. But I want to just end on these 4 practical steps. And I know we've rambled, we've gone on through some different things. I hope this is value to some people. Once again, we're still learning.
We're throwing mud against the wall to see what sticks.
That's right. And we need your input. Your input will help us in what we're going to be talking about. So here's the 4 practical steps for this week. Number 1, take responsibility. Like Jesus cared for people, intentionally meet one need this week, just one. Spend time with your kids, check in on a friend, or handle a responsibility you've been putting off. Just one, okay? Meet a need, okay? Act with courage. Speak truth in love where you've been silent. An example would be lovingly confront a bad habit in yourself or a close friend. I know this Sunday they did baptisms, and I saw the young man getting baptized by the other young man, and two different races, two different walks of life, most likely, right? Not necessarily one was bad, one's not. I'm just saying just it happens because you're two different races. And so what was cool, though, is I immediately thought of the brothers in the Lord of mine that I'm close to that are from a different race. And I just put a post out there and I said, this made me think of these guys. And I said, what was cool is they're the ones that hold me under the water when my flesh is rising up.
Yeah. They're
the ones that hold me to remind me, you've been buried with Christ, live in new life. And so I will just say this, that I've had to speak truth and love to them, and they've spoken truth and love to me. And they've called me out on my junk. They've called me out when I was being a little, spiritual, prideful, arrogant, whatever.
Yeah.
And then that brings us to practice humility. Do a simple act of service with no credit. Wash the dishes, write a thank you note, or pray for someone privately. It could be anything. It could be anything other than that. It can literally be, this thing in the garage that I said I was going to go do. I'm going to go knock that out. And I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm not going to whatever. I'm just going to go do it. And then lastly, number 4, follow Jesus's example. Read one gospel story each day and ask, what does this show me about true manhood in Jesus? What am I seeing from Jesus? So here's another selfish plug for the 30-day workout plan and word plan. We're going to be in Proverbs and in John. So if you join this plan, you're going to be in the Gospels. You're going to knock that out just by being in that plan. You're going to knock that out. You're going to be reading the Gospels. You're going to be seeing how Jesus was in certain situations and saying, how can I be like Jesus? Whenever the religious people are raising up and they're condemning everyone, how can I be like Jesus and say, that person has a story and that story matters to God and it matters to me? Maybe I should get to know them and join their journey before I judge it.
Amen to that.
And then the closing challenge, I gave you the 4 practical steps. Closing challenge, Jesus shows us manhood that culture can't define. Responsible, courageous, and humble. This week, let's stop chasing trends and start following Christ's example. Let's start chasing the truth.
That's right.
Thanks for watching and listening to today's episode.